another episode of Get a Load of This. From the Silver Creek Studios, I'm Jarod.
And I'm Bill.
And your fucking phone just went off. You got to shut that shit off.
It's not my phone. It's my watch.
It's your watch, whatever.
Mute it.
Ding. I don't know if you heard that. It's annoying.
You can edit it out, can't you?
Yeah, but I don't want to.
Lazy.
Well, as you may notice, Ryan is not in studio with us. Bill is sitting in for him.
Yeah.
And I think Ryan said something like, fuck Bill. Something. I can't remember exactly how he worded it, but yeah.
Yeah. We got to get that right before we go on.
Yeah. But yeah, so this is our part 2 of our all sex episode. Positions,
Yeah.
preferences, all that shit. And
Now, Kristen ain't here. Can't talk about that.
no,
Get you in trouble.
Ryan gets all nervous and sweaty when he hears us talking about sex.
I swear he's listened to it. He's no way going to make me believe he's never listened to
Ryan,
that
Bill
episode.
doesn't believe you when you said you never listened to the episode
You
where we
listened,
talked about
you just
sex.
don't want to talk about it. It's too uncomfortable for you. I understand.
Well, speaking of uncomfortable, I want to get into some topics that I don't think Bill really wants to get into. And I know Kristen doesn't want us to talk about it. She asked for a disclaimer. The views expressed on this podcast are not shared by their wives.
Yeah, that's true.
So we'll be careful. I realize, okay, I want to talk about the riots and the protests and some other things that are in the news right now regarding race. And I realize that's a hot button topic and you can get in trouble real quick without even, meaning to or having that intention in your heart. So you got to be careful. But I also think if everybody is scared to say anything, then you can't have this conversation and you can't kind of come to terms with people because everybody's afraid to say what they think, even if it's, honest, good intentions. So I think it's important that we discuss this, but not everyone agrees.
I don't agree.
Bill
that
doesn't
it's
agree.
Important.
I dragged him into this.
And you said you want to talk about it, and I'm going to be very careful. And not because I'm afraid of what I will say. I'm just, it's a sensitive matter right now.
It is.
And so what you say can be used against you in the real world.
I trust myself and my feelings. I trust you and your feelings. I don't think we're going to say anything too inflammatory, but we'll see.
Well, it's all how it's interpreted too. It's not necessarily if I say something wrong or you say something wrong, it's how somebody views it and says, wow, I didn't realize Bill's a racist.
But I'm willing to stand my ground if somebody misinterprets what I say. But we'll see. Maybe I'll say something that I'm not woke enough and I'll get myself in trouble. But honestly, anything besides coronavirus at this point, I'm all for.
Yeah,
so
I'm sick of that.
We haven't been recording recently, partly because every freaking episode ended up being COVID-19 related, and it just got old. Ryan and I just got unmotivated to talk about anything anymore because it always ended up being virus stuff. So
there was nothing else to talk about because there's no sports, there's no going out to eat. You can't talk about, hey, I went to a good restaurant. You can't talk about nothing because
some of that's changed now, though, as things are opening up.
My point of view on that is I'm not afraid of the virus. I mean, I can care less, but I'm not going to go out there and fight.
I ate at a restaurant yesterday.
Well, you're lucky.
Dine in over in Missouri. It was nice.
See, I don't have that big need to go dine in if I'm hungry.
Well, I happened to be over there, and it was like, let's
see, that's what I do. But I know people that are like, I'm going to rush over now that
no, I'm not doing that.
This place is open, and we're going to sit down and eat a meal for once. I mean, I've been eating pretty good at home.
Yeah. And honestly, it's not really that great of an experience because the wait staff isn't really waiting on you. They're all wearing masks. They're like, you're lucky if they even bring your food out to you or whatever.
Right.
They're not serving you while you're there. There's no refills of this. It's, it's all now I love the fact that they have all the tables spread out. But
that's still awkward. I'm like,
I know
the whole point of going out to eat. I mean, not that I look forward to the crowd, but I'd feel like real weird sitting there and being. Yeah, I talked to a neighbor of mine. They went out to eat to a Mexican restaurant over in South County. So they go over there, and they said it was kind of odd because normally they go there and it's packed, or not packed, but people are there,
crowded,
and bar stools or lean forward. You can't sit so close.
Right.
I'm like, they thought it was kind of peaceful. But me, I'm like, I feel like I'm alienated. Like, nobody wants to be around me. Not
like I said, I like the distance part because I hate sitting right next to somebody, especially in a restaurant that's not that crowded. I hate when they put two tables next to each other.
Right.
But it is weird when you go in and it's you kind of have to whisper because everybody can hear what you're saying.
Are they wearing masks?
The staff is, yeah.
See, I don't like that.
Right.
I don't want to go. I want to go back out and enjoy it because I feel like if they have a mask on, I need one on.
Right.
And I don't want to wear one.
Eating,
well, no, but still, it's like the awkwardness of like,
yeah,
I'm sitting there eating and they're bringing everything out with their mask on. I don't want to deal with that.
Yeah,
I don't go to some stores because they require a mask.
Right.
I mean, I guess I'm anti-mask, but I just feel like
you're going to your meat market. Have you been in there since they reopened?
No, I haven't.
I figured you were lined up.
I do mine the old-fashioned or the new-fashioned way.
We bought some beef the other day. Damn, it was expensive. I had no idea. Because at the time you couldn't go in, so you had to stand outside, order it, and then they bring it out.
And then they tell you how much you spent.
Yeah, holy shit! I spent double what we normally would spend. And I know there's this whole, the price of beef is expensive right now.
It's a game.
It fucking is.
I think I saw the new offers, and it's like $6.99 a pound for ground beef.
I think when I got it, it was $6.50 or $6.25, something like that.
So I'm going to pay over $70 for 10 pounds when that doesn't even make. Well, I put 5.5 pounds, I think, in chili when I make it.
Yeah,
that's an expensive pot of chili.
We always get like we get the 10-pound packages or whatever up there, and usually it's on sale. But even when it's not on sale, I think it's $4.50 a pound or something like that.
Right,
maybe $5.
When it's on sale, it's like $39 or something like that.
Right, yeah, $39 for 10 pounds. So I think it's $40. It's like $3.99 a pound, whatever. Right. Anyway, so it's 50%, more than 50% more expensive right now. So that caught me off guard.
Well, I looked at everything on there, and it was like, well, guess I'm going to get bratwurst for a while and some baby bologna because I'm not going to sit there and I don't have a need for. But it's weird. I can go to Sam's and buy loaded burgers there. They're frozen ones. They're not fresh. And I can get like, I don't know, how many is it? A dozen or more for like less than $10. So it's like, I'm going to buy those. And I guess if we get close to chili season,
right.
I'm going to grind that shit up.
Patties,
put some pork sausage and some ground up pre-made patties.
It's almost old news at this point. We kind of dragged our feet getting together to podcast about this, but the big topic in the news right now is the protests and then riots and all the fallout from the George Floyd death.
Now, have you discussed this at all?
Mm-mm. We haven't podcasted in like 2 or 3 weeks.
So everybody, I mean, it's not like it's local news. It's global news.
National news, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, it's more than national.
Yeah, I guess.
It's overseas, too. So, I don't know. Where do you want to start at with this? I mean,
I guess, I think anybody listening to this knows what's been going on, but kind of, I guess what I want to talk about related to this, there's 2 other topics that I want to get into that's kind of related, but just the overall, the mindset of let's say the peaceful protesters versus the rioters, right? The violent rioters.
Mm-hmm.
For one, is it different? And are those the same people? Are they interspersed? Are some of these peaceful protesters becoming violent rioters by the end of the night? Probably. Are there separate ones? Are there
and
people
here's a disclosure again.
Uh-huh.
This is why I didn't want to talk about it. Just because we don't know. So that's a disclosure.
But you can have an opinion about what you're seeing and what's being reported on without being in the streets of
right. I just don't want the assumption that, and we'll get into it more, I'm sure, but I believe over 90% of the people out there are peaceful protesting.
I don't. I mean, I don't know what percentage I believe, but I think I've seen, somewhat large groups of peaceful protesters for sure, and I've seen very large group of violent protesters. So I don't know what that percentage weighs out, but it ain't 90%.
I watch a lot of news, and I'm looking at every city, and I see all this turmoil happening where it comes to looting, rioting, and I will admit, I mean, you brought this up beforehand. Some of these peaceful protesters are possibly taking advantage of the not so peaceful protesters who are actually out there looting. I mean,
yeah. Well, okay. Let's talk about that a little bit. So we kind of, and I think the news and just the perception in general is that looting and rioting are classified together, right? So I think of looting as being going into a store and taking stuff, right? Breaking through the windows or the doors and stealing things, right? That's looting to me. Where rioting could be that, but it also is just like blowing shit up, turning cars over, throwing a brick through a window or whatever. And that can be a form of protest. I don't agree that it's a good form, but it's a form of protest to kind of get your message across. We're not going to be heard unless we take things far. But once you step over the line and you walk out with a flat screen TV or a pair of Nikes or whatever, you're not rioting anymore. You're fucking stealing, and you're out for profit and gain and trying to get cool shit. Busting down an ATM. I saw a live video on Channel 4 the other day of a group of like 15 people with crowbars, and they tried to ram an ATM with a van, all this shit, trying to just get money out of it. Like, well, fuck you. You're not here for the cause. You're not here for George Floyd. You're stealing money out of an ATM.
But I think, looking at that, I actually saw that too. They were not very successful.
No, as far as I saw, they didn't get it.
It was kind of in a way, but I can see myself. I don't know how old these guys are, but let's say they're 20. Back when I was 20, I didn't have responsibilities as much as I do now. If something like that was going on, and you've got these people out there, you got the peaceful protesters, you got we'll call it Antifa because that's what everybody's using, who disturb the peace on purpose. They're the ones breaking the windows. They're the ones lighting the fires.
I don't know.
And then the other people are seeing an opportunity to like, well, shit, Macy's is open for business because these guys open business. I don't know. I mean, I'm
open
not
for business, meaning we can go in and steal shit.
Right. So I'm looking at it like being young and dumb and immature, like,
I'm opportunistic, empathizing with these young guys who are nice freaking set of speakers
or headphones. I'm going to walk in and grab it.
I mean, I hear what you're saying. When you were their age, you might have done something stupid too. I don't care. I mean, what the fuck? Just because they're young and stupid?
Well, I'm not saying I'm giving them
theft and violence and death sometimes. I mean, some people are dying during this shit.
Right. Well, and I agree.
Definitely,
and then I
see the one are being ruined,
burned down. We talked about this. The woman who was trying to protect her business, her and her husband's business, from being destroyed, and she was co-coxed with a 8-foot 2x4, and she was getting her ass handed to her for protecting her own business. That, again, I can't say if that's, let's quote unquote Antifa. I can't say if it's
I do not believe that was Antifa.
See, again, I can't say either way because there are the purpose of doing the protest is to get your voice heard. And I understand that totally, and I'm all for that. The problem is there's so many people out there manipulating that, and like I said, you have a line of do-gooders who are trying to pass a voice of how they feel they're being singled out. And obviously George Floyd was, in my opinion, was murdered. Obviously, I mean, there's no justification for what the police officers did, especially the one. The other three were probably told, shut the fuck up. And do as I told
we don't
you.
know. We don't know. But yeah, they could have stopped it.
They could have stopped it. But again, I don't know how that works. I don't know if the main guy with the knee on the neck, if he was the chief or the boss.
Right.
The other ones probably can't say much. Like, hey, you need to get off him. Shut up. You report to me. I don't know. Either way, I don't give two shits of where the blame's at. They murdered the guy. And right away, authorities, including the president, said we're going to expedite
Department of Justice is going to get involved.
We're getting involved. This is
figure out
totally,
what happened.
Yeah, murder. No big. I mean, not even close to being like, we need to look at the film right away. Everybody's seen it. I mean, I don't know anybody who's seen it saying, well, I do know one. Hell, was it a governor of some freaking state said
he was like Mississippi or something. He was like, I didn't see anything outside of normal or whatever.
He's just, I don't know. He I guess he wants.
Okay, I will say though, and this will be considered inflammatory. A few days after it happened, and the videos were out, another video was released showing him not resisting arrest. Right? Did you see that video where he was easily, they sat him down up against a building. He was just peacefully waiting. And
so the first one that came out was the knee on the neck.
Right. That was
the second one was, because it was like 3 different ones that came out, or actually 4. But the second one came out showing him when they originally pulled him over and were actually questioning him.
Well, the narrative given by the police in the report was that he resisted arrest, and that's why they had to pin him down.
Right.
And then a video came out showing him not resisting arrest, and that became the narrative, was that by certain groups of the media, was that, look, they lied, he wasn't resisting arrest. Except, and here's where I'm going to sort of view both sides, that video stopped at the moment that they got him over to the vehicle that we then later saw him pinned down to the ground. So the whole video of him not resisting was at a different car across the street, across the intersection, and it was peaceful on both sides. Like, he wasn't doing anything, they weren't doing anything to him. He was handcuffed, but like, they were, checking out the car that he was in. They were talking to the girl that was with him. It was just sort of like a normal, quote unquote, normal arrest, right? Nothing looked out of the ordinary. He wasn't resisting, but they weren't abusing him either. And they easily walked him across the street. And at the moment that it gets like to the edge of the screen and they get to the car or vehicle that he was about to be placed in, is when you don't see it anymore.
Well, there's a video after
you can't tell me that he wasn't resisting based on that video, because you didn't show the part where they said he's resisted, which was putting him in the car.
Right. Let me interject here because there is another video.
Okay. I haven't seen that.
Shows him getting into one of the SUVs, and then a cop, like 2 other guys had him on one side. Then one of the cops went to the other side of the SUV. I'm not saying he was resisting, but there was something going on where he was in one of the Explorers, probably the Explorer that he was laying next to. And for some reason, I don't know what it was. I can't say he was resisting, or he just wasn't feeling good, or he couldn't breathe at that point, because I understand he was having heart issues or something like that. They pulled him back out. And
I read something where he said something about being claustrophobic or whatever.
Right, and he asked
and he was like,
well, hell, wouldn't you be too?
I mean, I don't know, in the back of a cop. I wouldn't enjoy it. Well, don't fucking break the law. That's my break the law. He fucking tried to pass a counterfeit bill. He was clearly intoxicated, inebriated in this store. The woman who called 911 on him was like, he's behaving really weird. He seems really strange. And she said it about him and the person he was with.
Later on, they did the autopsy, said they found fentanyl in his system. However, when I look up what fentanyl does, fentanyl is a chill. It's not a upper. It's a downer.
I'm saying I don't know, whatever. The lady who called it in said he's behaving really strangely. He's acting really weird. And he tried to pass this counterfeit bill. Whatever. I'm not justifying his death at all. I'm saying something happened from the time they walked him across the street peacefully with him not resisting and them not abusing him to the point where 3 guys are laying on top of him in the street. Like, something happened there. He clearly resisted in some way, and they felt like they needed to pin him down. Now, that's no excuse. He should not have died. Like, nothing they should have ever done should lead to his death. So that's bullshit and a terrible tragedy, and people should be mad about it. But don't act like, I'm not saying the media should not be saying, and people who are protesting should not be saying that he didn't resist based on that one video that doesn't show him resisting, because it doesn't show them putting him in the car. So,
but there is another video.
Well, okay, I haven't seen that one, but if it shows him resisting, then fine. There's your police narrative. If he was
But I can't
thrashing
say he was,
around and kicking and whatever.
But I can't say he was resisting. I can only say that they...
3 cops don't just lay on top of you in the street for no reason. They don't just choose to do that.
We'd like to believe that, but there's also cops with an attitude. I mean, if you look at this, the first video that came out, that cocksucker who was on his neck, was defiant of everybody around him. They were
people were pleading,
the arrogance,
get off him,
of his authority, and these people who are filming it are saying, get off him, he's not breathing. And his sarcastic freaking, what does he mean sarcastic? His attitude was, if he's talking, he's
talking, he can breathe.
I'm like, what a dick, for one. And two, he was not going to get off because those people were standing there next to him saying, get off of him.
Right. I'm not going to do what you tell me to do.
Right. You're not. I'm a cop, and you're just whoever. So I'm not going to fucking do what you guys ask.
I understand.
So the guy's a cocksucker.
I agree. The guy is a cocksucker, and the 3 guys who allowed that to happen. Now, I also don't think they intended to kill him. I think they thought he was talking. He probably can breathe enough to not die on our fucking street right here.
I don't think.
Now, were they being careful enough with his livelihood? No, I don't. They weren't being careful enough, and they indirectly caused his death. So,
I mean, there's no way they intended on killing, but
I mean, I don't believe that
the arrogance,
is
what killed him. I mean, and the fact that if you look at the video and you hear the guy talking and pleading and all the horrible things he was saying, that was like, get off of him, I would say, the same way as they were. And then you look at the guy with his hands in his pocket. If you notice in the video, you'll see somebody comes up to him and checks his pulse, checks his neck. And he still doesn't get off until the gurney comes. They're holding his neck and everything else. At that point, I mean...
But the narrative is that he did this because it's a black guy, and he didn't mind killing a black guy. And I just don't think that's true. I think if some white guy in a wife beater had 911 called on him for breaking the law and acting strangely and erratically, and the cops show up and that guy resists getting in the cop car, they're going to lean on his neck too. Like,
well,
this
honestly,
isn't a black thing. I don't think. I mean, maybe this guy treated him more harshly because he's black, but I don't necessarily think
get what
that.
you're saying. You're saying as being this perceiving it because you're not racist. You're thinking of it as, okay, this guy broke the law. Obviously, that's why the cops were called. He somehow, in your eyes, because you didn't see the other video, he must have resisted because everything was so peaceful before.
It was, yeah.
And then whatever led to them holding him down, it's still not police procedure. And until something like that gets either filmed or recorded another way as being an Asian or a white or whomever it may be, you got to look at it this way too.
Yeah,
I mean, there's so many different
I understand
chips on their shoulder with it.
This is obviously, it's not the first time that a black person has been beaten or killed, under police watch. So this hasn't been an isolated. I understand all that. I just don't like manipulating the narrative to where it's worse than it is. Don't say he didn't resist when the evidence you're using doesn't show the part where he's getting in the car. Like, you can't use it. And maybe they're not anymore. Maybe they've backed off of that. I don't know. I'm going off of what I heard a few days ago.
Let's just let that die just because you haven't seen that video and I did. So
the second video or the one that shows him
and
in the
I don't
car?
think he was resisting. I think he was just having a hard time breathing and wanted, he was.
But if that's the case, I'll say again, if that's the case, if he's like, hey man, I can't breathe in here, and let's say he's claustrophobic or he's having a panic attack or something, why would 3 guys need to lay on top of him?
But if you look at it, he wasn't fighting.
I need to watch it,
and let me tell you this. I've played with handcuffs as a kid. You had those fake ones?
Yeah, you have.
Ask Christy. But anyway, once you got a guy, I don't care how big that guy is, you got 4 cops around you.
Mm-hmm.
You're in handcuffs. For one, you can't run away. For 2, you ain't got the guy had no energy. I mean, when you see him get arrested to begin with, he tripped going up the curb.
He's clearly intoxicated.
Or whatever's going on,
Mm-hmm.
So he's not trying to fight it. He's just out of it. He had no way to have leverage. The cops had all the leverage. So a guy in handcuffs, they could have sat him down like, okay,
but again, like they did earlier, they sat him down on the street,
but hurry
on
up
his
and took him
butt,
across the street,
leaned up against the wall. I mean, that video was like 8 minutes long. Like it was all just sort of nonchalant. Let's just let this thing.
I can't imagine though, a guy in handcuffs.
All of a sudden, three dudes have to sit on top of him. Like that again.
I think
they didn't.
Bullshit.
What do you mean it's bullshit?
I think there was I think the main guy who's being charged the most has a power trip. And he wasn't about to have anybody on the streets telling him how to do it. And because what I had heard too is they actually called out some kind of code, which means something. I don't know what it means. And he told them, do not get up. He told the other two cops to not get off. Okay. So a code of some sort that they say when someone's not.
Like a resisting arrest kind of thing, or a guy's being violent or something?
No, they had him down, and the other two wanted to get off, saying, he's, let's say, cooperating. I don't even know. I don't want to say what it is if I don't know, but I heard it was some kind of code, and he said no.
You mean a code for cooperating or something? Like
something like that, yeah. Okay. Like, we got him, let's just get off him now.
All right.
And the cop with the fucking cocky ass attitude, he's like, nope, stay where you're at. Like, fuck you. And then, it's like, this escalated because, one, we have social media. Social media, we've talked about this before when I was on here with you guys, of how I think social media is like the end-all, be-all of as far as, and not in a good way, we're taking everything away from, like, what, it's kind of like looking on the internet for, if I talk to you right now and saying, hey, I like beer, and next thing I look at my phone and there's all these beer ads.
Right.
Same thing with social media. Everybody's got a phone. If you look at these rioters and protesters, they're getting right in the cop's face, and all it is about putting themselves on social media. If I go on TikTok, if I go on Facebook, I see somebody's live.
Sure, there's some of that,
thing of, look, I'm telling a cop to fuck off. I'm telling, a military guy to eat shit. And that's where everybody's tougher and stronger. And it's easy to be tough and strong when you're in front of armed police / military, when you know they can't do something. You know that they've been told. You just stand there and keep the peace and make sure nobody gets too far out of line, which these protesters, I don't care if they were being ignorant with the cops, if they were doing anything else, other than, tearing down the, the buildings and burning shit. Yeah. I don't believe, again, the peaceful ones, the people that really had a motive to go out there, I mean, don't matter what color they are, whatever ones that decided to go out there and say, hey, we want to make a stand. We want to let them know that the police should be held responsible for murder. And I believe, too, that there's a lot of black individuals who are fucked with just because of their skin. The biggest problem is I'm all for protesters who have a purpose. And they have I don't care what it is, even if I don't agree with the purpose. I mean, in this case, I agree totally what's going on. But there's a lot of protesting. Everybody has a reason to protest for some reason, whether it's abortion or, I don't know.
Fucking shutting down the states for COVID.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, whatever.
Thing. So there's reasons to protest, and I'm all for peaceful protest. But when you got an organization that is hiding behind, and there's been so much evidence of an organization that tries to blend in with these protesters and to create the havoc, that's the part that I have
talking about
Antifa. Antifa, for sure.
So I don't doubt that Antifa is out there participating in this, causing havoc and destruction. But and for one, I don't know that much about Antifa. I don't know how organized they really are. I don't know.
I
mean, I'm sure it is, but I don't.
It's being investigated right now, and I've actually seen videos of a place that's going to announce, hey, tomorrow night we're going to protest down Main Street, right?
Right.
Main Street will then, the very next day, will have a fake cop car that they bought at an auction, and then they'll have pallets of bricks sitting there.
Right.
No construction is going on. Nothing's going on. And next thing you know, the peaceful protest begins. The cops line up just to keep it all peaceful.
But who's doing that? Is that someone in that town that happens to be a part of Antifa, or is that somebody from 4 states away who decides to drive 12 hours to Minneapolis or what, like
the way I understand it, and I've talked to other people on this, is there is a certain code, there's a certain agenda behind it.
Okay.
And it's backed by somebody. I mean, I don't know who it is because I think they're still investigating, but it's not just to do it in Minneapolis. It's to start, and they have strict rules. Like if certain things ain't going on, like if this isn't going the way they planned it, stop what you're doing. If this is going on, we got to do this. If this is going on, like let the protesters go this way, we go this way. Then next thing you know, there are going to be some peaceful protesters that look at it like, well, shit.
But see,
this is where the party's happening. Let's go down the street where Nike's got a free-for-all.
I get it that is going on, but I think it's a cop-out to say that if Antifa wasn't involved, none of this violence and rioting and looting would be happening, and to blame it on Antifa. Like, they're involved, and they're maybe escalating certain things that wouldn't be, but I've seen way too many videos of people that clearly weren't Antifa. They're clearly locals who are just there to steal shit.
They're opportunistic.
Burn buildings down.
Opportunistic.
Okay.
What is the word?
Opportunistic?
That is it. Yeah.
Fine. It doesn't make it okay.
It doesn't make it okay.
I mean, that's absolutely what's going on.
A lot of
they're taking advantage of a riot or of a protest. They're taking advantage of what would have could have been a peaceful protest and coming out and destroying shit.
But it's no different than 40 million or more people taking advantage of the government right now with unemployment. A lot of these people.
I think it is different because you're burning buildings down, if not shooting and killing people. Like that's different.
I'm just saying people take advantage of. I mean, that's human nature of most people who are not trying to be honest.
Yeah, but I don't like that either. People who, if you don't need to be on unemployment, but you know other people that are, and you're just like, you know what? I think I'm going to file for unemployment.
When frickin' somebody offers $600 extra,
right.
I mean, what? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I couldn't do that, but
I have heard several people that made more off their unemployment than they did off their job. Yeah.
So that's the problem. That's why.
That's different. We're talking.
But I'm giving you like an idea of why things happen because of certain perks to it, even though it's not right. I mean, some of these people have been offered their jobs back. And they said, fuck that. I ain't going back to work for you because I'm getting more now. And there's no reason for me to go back to work until they cut me off.
That's a problem with the system. Like you shouldn't.
That's part of the.
You shouldn't be paying people more than they were getting paid in their job.
Because a lot of these people who are out there doing the protesting are feeling the same way. Like, we've been robbed. You know, I mean, we've been screwed over all these years. We're going to take advantage of Macy's. We're going to take advantage of Nike.
So you're So you're saying they feel like they've been robbed themselves, so to speak, over the years of not given certain opportunities, not had the ability to get a better job and make more money and blah, 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 blah. And now's their chance to get it back. I'm going to go take that shit that I want. I mean,
not exactly. I'm not saying they're been waiting for a riot to happen so they can steal shit and say, hey.
But they don't feel bad about doing it because they feel like they're in a shitty situation.
Fucked over. I mean, even if you
I get it.
We don't know because we're not been. I mean, I've never been singled out because of the color of my skin. However, I've heard of I have friends who said they have been for whatever reason, just because they're in the wrong place. Not really in the wrong place. It sounds bad to say it that way. At the wrong time. It's just what their skin's tone is, and it's like this isn't fair. But it's something that they're used to. That's what they're accustomed to. So therefore, they almost expect it every time. And it's wrong. And we all talk about Black Lives Matters, all lives matters.
Still, I'm saying I get all that. I understand that there's persecution going on and there's racism and there's unfair treatment. I understand that. But what the fuck good does burning down an AutoZone have to do in your local community? Like, why would you do that?
Well, I guarantee,
what good did you get out of burning that AutoZone down or that Target or
I'll tell you what,
the bank or whatever?
The persons who did it was having fun doing it. But I guarantee the protesters that were out there trying to go out there for a cause are pissed off right now. One, they got no
I hope so
7-Eleven to go to. Two, they're looking at like, why the fuck are you guys giving us a bad name? Because they want their voice to be heard, and I think they should be heard. And however whatever manner they choose. But there is a few, well, whatever you want to call it, 1,000 people out there really trying to rake in over this. It's kind of like, I'm trying to think of the right terminology to say. Here, you go here. I want to.
Yeah, I kind of agree with you, but it's an unfortunate twist where you've got people rightfully protesting, rightfully mad, maybe even rightfully, throwing a brick through a window or whatever, right? But when that goes beyond that to just stealing TVs and burning down a business that had nothing to do with any of this, it's like, what the fuck are you doing? It's ridiculous. I don't care how mad you were about whatever mistreatment happened. That is bullshit. You cannot cross into that territory.
It's
people are getting a former cop who's now a retired police chief, and I think he was working security or whatever.
At the pawn shop?
At the pawn shop. Tries to stop a pawn shop from being looted, and he gets murdered. What the fuck?
Well,
you're not helping the cause at all. You're not stopping the stereotype of thugs or whatever who are going to shoot cops when you go murder a guy out in front of a pawn shop who's trying to stop looting from happening. Like, why do you think these cops have itchy trigger fingers? Why do you think they maybe aren't quite as careful where they stick their knee on your neck when you're murdering people in the streets who are trying to protect a local business? Like, I'm not justifying what happened to George Floyd, but all that outrage goes out the window when you start murdering people in the streets who are protecting others. Like, come on, you just blew it all out.
I agree. I mean, there's no justification for the Floyd. There's no justification for the ex-chief.
Right. Dorn.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're right.
But
and my wife brought up that point. She's like, people on
rules.
both sides, so to speak, if you talk about sides, everybody feels like they're justified. Like, this is why we're doing this. And like I said, well, this is why the cops are doing that, because they feel like they're being attacked. I mean, I was telling you, maybe I've never done the math on it, but I feel like there's been as many stories in the news about a cop being attacked or shot or ambushed as I have about a citizen being killed by a cop. Like, I'm not saying it's even, but like, it's happening for sure on both parties. Yeah. And
it's a problem.
They're afraid of getting attacked, of a guy at a 911 call, and I don't come home from this kind of thing. So I'm not saying it's right, but I won't say that there's no reason. Like, there is a reason that this shit is going on. So, but they would say that too. People who are protesting would say, well, this is why we're protesting. This is why we're rioting. This is why I'm burning down a 7-Eleven.
And so that's why I was questioning speaking on this, because we aren't living in those conditions of being singled out the way they tell us they're being singled out. I mean, I'm not saying they tell us that because they're lying. I'm just saying me and you have no clue
you're right.
of what it's like to have that going on at all times. I mean, I know how it was when I was a kid and I was a troublemaker and every time I did something, somebody's watching on my shoulder.
But you could not make the argument that they're pestering me for no reason.
But that's what I would say.
I know, but it wasn't
even
right
when
because
I was doing
you were.
nothing wrong,
I know, but the reason they were
like,
watching you was because you were doing shit wrong other times.
No,
you were a troublemaker.
Let's put it this way: I did a few things wrong, but
you did plenty.
No, and then after that, everybody's like, "Oh, what happened to the freaking hubcap on our tire?"
Right.
Right away, they're blaming me for it because I got in trouble before it. I'm like, the fuck is this? I wasn't even there.
Right.
And that's exactly the way they kind of feel in one small example.
You can't say that there was no reason. If I got in trouble for the missing hubcap, I'd be like, what the fuck are you talking about? I've never been in trouble in a day of my life. What the hell? I would have reason to be pissed. But I'm just labeling you the quote unquote troublemaker who's doing stupid shit all the time for a prank or whatever. Well, yeah. Of course they're going to wonder if you did it.
But that's bullshit. Because
it's not bullshit.
That's exactly how I felt when I was in school, always getting in trouble.
Well, then you shouldn't have done all that other shit.
I did a few things.
You did.
And whatever I did, it doesn't matter. I should be forgiven. and given a second chance. And I wasn't. It was automatically, oh, who is it? Oh, Bill. Fuck that kid. He ain't got a chance.
Yeah. I mean, I hear
wish
what
I could
you're
go back
saying.
to all those people that said that and say, fuck you. Look at me now.
But that's, I mean, I hear you. And maybe it isn't fair that they assumed. But you can't say that there was no reason. It may not have been fair, but there was a reason they did it because you had a track record. You had a history of doing shit.
Friends that I hung out with, I guarantee people that had the same haircut I had back then when I had hair, I guarantee the same people that were interested in what I did took the same type of shit based on appearance, which is kind of based on color, based on, everything else, just because of maybe something I did, or vice versa. Somebody else might have been a big ass punk who looked like me or dressed like me, and they're like, you're just like one of the rest of those motherfuckers. And I had to take shit for that and for no reason. I'm like, what the fuck is somebody fucking with me for? And I feel like, in a way, that's the same way they feel. I mean, granted, it's not, I can't say that because I don't know how they feel, but it's a similarity. I mean, I remember getting called out on something I didn't do just because of the way I looked, or, oh, he wears that thing, and that's exactly what the person was wearing.
Mm-hmm. Well, let's talk about another related topic. But it was a fairly big story the last couple of days with Drew Brees and the whole taking a knee during the national anthem thing, right? And basically he said that he would, I'm paraphrasing here, he would never understand people who take a knee during the national anthem, or he would never agree with that action.
Mm-hmm.
And he followed that up with a fairly in-depth explanation about why he feels so strongly about it. He said both of his grandfathers fought in the war and lost a lot of friends, and a lot of blood was shed for this country, right? And so he feels pretty passionately about the national anthem and the flag and all that stands for.
Right.
So he, basically kind of indirectly trashing the people who are taking a knee at football games. Let's just say, starting with Colin Kaepernick and all the other guys who are behind that, involved in that, and in support of that stuff. So he caught a lot of flack, right? A bunch of guys, a bunch of teammates, other guys from other sports, just fans, whatever, got, pretty pissed at his words about never understanding people taking a knee. So, first of all, what do you think about all that?
Well, first of all, where'd it come from? Like, what made him sit down and give a press conference or answer a question of that nature during this time?
That's a good question. I think he was just like on a radio show or something, doing an interview or whatever, but, okay, why?
The reason why is that's a subject right now that you don't go there. I mean, we're not in the middle of Labor Day, Memorial Day, July 4th, any kind of political, or I shouldn't say political, but any kind of patriotic day. That's what I meant to say. And to say something like that, he probably was, and he was set up.
And he has a reputation for being, having that opinion, so but it's probably why it came up.
That's one of those questions where you say, ask me later.
I mean, it's related to all this, right? That whole take a knee thing was about police brutality.
It was. However, he was basically blindsided, so to speak, with that question, and he should have thought a little bit like, okay, he is a what do you want to call him? Superstar,
celebrity. He's a
people look up to him,
role model, so to speak.
Right, and you should be careful what you say. I mean, granted, I believe he looked at it that way. Like, if my parents and grandparents and all that, served in wars, and that flag meant something more than just our national flag, I can see him having that feelings, but I think he should have just said, hey, let's talk about something else. Because of the fact that it's such a sensitive thing with the taking a knee, and especially before he came out with that, Kaepernick, of course, came out and stirred up a little bit more, because he was basically saying, burn the fucking places down.
Let me ask you this. What do you think the taking a knee movement is about? What is it about? What is it what's the symbology? What is going on when these guys are taking a knee at a football game?
Honestly, I don't even know the definition of what that means. I knew that it started obviously in football. I'm not totally out of the loop, but I never understood what Kaepernick and everybody else who decided to take a knee. I knew it was after the Michael Brown incident and hands up, don't shoot, and all that kind of stuff. But I never understood the knee down during the national anthem. I didn't know.
Right.
Maybe I didn't look into it enough. I just didn't see
I don't think you're alone. I think a lot of people don't fully understand what it is going on. But I think the overall message is this is related to police brutality, right? So this is taking a stand,
why is
so to
the
speak.
Flag related to police brutality?
That's a good question, and I want to get into that.
Okay.
But let's assume that it is related to police brutality, and they're trying to send a message of discontent with whatever situation, right? With the situation of police versus I'll just say black people, right? That's, I think, the general description, right?
Well, no. I mean, white people were doing it too.
Well, I'm saying, but the cause was police brutality against
right.
So I think that's what the cause behind it was. Now, what is the symbology of taking a knee? In my opinion, in my mindset or viewpoint, it's basically showing your dissatisfaction with our country as a whole. So when we are standing with our hand over our heart, listening to the national anthem, you are showing respect for and paying tribute to our country. And so they're saying by taking a knee, as I'm not going to stand with my hand over my heart and listen to this national song of our country because I don't like our country right now, is basically what they're saying.
But there's no
is that
definition of why they did it? I mean, has anybody asked Colin Kaepernick, like, okay, what started your plan of doing this? Because I'd like to know, just because
sure.
It is kind of weird.
I agree, it's not very clear.
Kind of attacking,
but I think they think it's clear. They when I say they, I'm saying supporters of the take a knee movement.
I think when they seen an activist, and this happened to be a sports activist, do something, and it became, and I blame it on the media and social media and all that shit, focused on it. I think if they wouldn't have focused on it so damn much, it wouldn't have been as big a hype. But I'd like to know where he thought taking a knee during that situation.
I've heard them say, supporters of it say, this isn't about the flag. Stop making it about the flag. Stop making it about whatever. And I'm like, okay, if it's not about the flag, what is it about? And I think they would say it's about police brutality. And we're trying to show our opposition to police brutality. Okay, I get that. I think I'm on board with showing
totally
that.
Understanding what they mean by police brutality.
But then
I just don't see how the flag.
But that's what I'm saying.
And the national anthem.
They're saying it's not about the flag, and they're trying to say this is just our way of showing that we don't like what's going on with police brutality. I'm saying it is about the flag. Now, maybe it isn't to everybody, but to some people, they're saying it's very much about the flag because the flag represents our country, and we don't like what's going on in our country right now. Which I guess that makes sense. You can say that. You don't like what's going on in this country for whatever reason, whether it's economics or politics or police brutality or whatever, right? So if you want to say that, you have the right to say that. But don't act like it isn't about the flag, because it is. The flag represents the thing that you are opposing right now. Now, maybe not everybody agrees with that. Maybe some people are like, I love my, and I've seen people like, I love my country. I love my flag. I'm a former Marine or whatever, but I'm taking a knee because it symbolizes this movement.
I bet.
But I'm saying,
if we ask them, and whoever started this, was it with Kaepernick or whoever decided that this was a great idea, if you ask him and see what the reason was, he might have done it on a whim. I don't know, but I don't think he personally was attacking any military, because obviously the military, if it wasn't for the military, then we wouldn't have the country we have now.
Yeah, but that's part of what the guys who are like Drew Brees are upset about, is that, okay, here's what
But he didn't specify where it bothers that when he did it. I think he just came out and said he doesn't support anybody
taking a knee during the national anthem.
He came out later on to reiterate what he what he meant by it.
Well,
to kind of backtrack because he was getting all this heat from
what I don't like, what really bothers me is that they would say Drew Brees and people like him aren't hearing us. They're not hearing what we're saying. They're not paying attention or caring about this movement that we've got going on in this opposition to police brutality. And that, in that sense, that's insensitive. That's not caring about your fellow man. It's not caring about black people is what they're saying. By making the national anthem about the flag and whatever, and ignoring the fact that these people are taking a knee, you're not listening to them. You're not hearing their plight, right? But I would make the same case for Drew Brees. They're not hearing him. He feels very passionate about the flag and about the national anthem for a lot of personal reasons to him. And a lot of people are in that same boat. They feel very passionate about our national anthem. And when they put their hand over their heart, they're not just killing time for it to be over and the game to start. They are looking back and reminiscing or thinking about family. Hell, sometimes I think about the fucking Revolutionary War when I'm hearing that and singing. I'm thinking about the shit that went on to found this country when I'm listening to and watching the national anthem. So it is a serious thing. And I think to do anything to disrespect that, whether there's a good reason behind it or not, is ignoring the fact that it is a special thing. It does have meaning, and it is important to show respect to our flag and our country, whether you like what's going on in this country or not. And if you don't like this country and you don't respect it and you don't like what the flag stands for and the people who died and shed blood for it, then maybe you shouldn't be here.
And I hear where you're coming from, but the timing is bad.
I don't care. I don't think it is bad. I think the timing is perfect.
Well, that's the problem. Right now, everybody's in uproar about the situation. This is where I find that celebrities, athletes, should just enjoy the life they have and kind of stay out of things and let the common people like us and whomever, they get involved with stuff that doesn't even pertain to them too much. They don't know what it's like to go in and work every day. I mean, playing a sport, acting in a movie, is it work? Fuck yeah, it's a little bit of work, but it's fun. And for these people to be role models to some of us,
but I mean,
it's kind of like,
I hear what
shut the
saying.
fuck up.
Well, yeah, but a lot of these people, and this is going to sound, you can call it racist if you want. I don't think it is. I think it's a fact. Most athletes, especially NFL and NBA athletes, are from poor families. They grow up in crappy situations. I'm not saying they all do, but a lot of them come from inner city hood type areas and have really rough lives growing up. Yeah, they're fucking rich now and everything's honky dory, but they didn't come up that way. So they clearly identify with a lot of what we're seeing on the news and the streets and whatever. Like, they know exactly all about that. So
right.
I think it's okay for them to have an opinion. I mean, it's okay for anybody to have an opinion. Well, no, but I don't know what his background is, but
even if he feels that strong about, because right now it wasn't in question, except some asshole asked him the question of, what do you think about kneeling in a flag? I don't see anybody kneeling, and I didn't see no flag shit going on. Nobody was burning a flag.
No,
to ask that question was a setup, and this guy took the bait because he is a proud, patriotic person.
I don't think it's bait. I think he should give that opinion because I think it's a valid opinion.
There's a time and place.
No, I disagree.
I know you do, and that's fine. That's
I'm not
why
saying,
we're here.
Yeah, exactly.
But I feel like, I mean, there's obviously everybody wants their voice heard, and when you get a question asked to you, you want to like, and he was given the response that he felt. That's actually not what he felt. That's exactly the way he feels about it. But the asshole who asked the question, knowing damn good and well it was going to stir controversy, should not have done it, because then he had everybody out of the woodworks coming up saying, what a racist comment to make. You're insensitive.
Sure the question was asked with a purpose of this is going to be a good question.
It was a total dick move to ask that question during this time of...
Again, I say, they're saying you are not hearing us, and you're like, we should be. It's okay for us to feel so strongly about this take a knee movement, right?
Right.
And in one sense, I will say yes. It's okay for them to feel strongly about that. That movement for sure. I'm not sure that taking a knee during the national anthem is the best way to convey that, but whatever. If they think it is, then fine. But as passionately as they can feel about that, and we shouldn't attack them for feeling that way necessarily, he can feel passionately on the other side, and he can't be attacked either. He shouldn't be attacked for what he feels.
You're right.
He's not being insensitive.
Had he said that when Kaepernick was taking his knee?
I think he did. I think that's why he was asked about it now, because he's been on record of having this opinion.
And that's why somebody in the media asked a fucking question to get him. And I mean,
fine. That's what I'm saying. That's fine. They can ask me, and I'll give my fucking opinion about it.
I know, but the problem is, there's a time and place to give the opinion. And I'm used to be one of those loose cannons that would say what I felt at any time. And it's like, sometimes you just got to like say, okay, I'm going to bite the bullet. I'm going to ignore that question and be nice about it and say,
I get it. Be sensitive to the situation. Feel the room, right?
Down.
Know the room or whatever.
Exactly right.
But that's what I'm saying. This is a very passionate topic for him too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's directly related to what's going on right now.
Enough because he came back and kind of backed up on it after he got taken shit.
I think
in my opinion, if he was so strong about it, like you're saying he is, he should have said, fuck you guys. I'm sticking with my story.
I think he's doing what you said. He's like, well, look, I realize I wasn't being sensitive enough to whatever. But he didn't say, I don't actually feel that way.
No, he didn't.
He does feel like you shouldn't take a knee during the national anthem.
Ask me this question in about 6 months.
Maybe he didn't handle it right. But I think his opinion is totally fine and justified.
I believe it's fine, too. Everybody should have their opinion.
He shouldn't have had to backtrack on what he said. That's what I'm saying. He shouldn't. Why? He shouldn't feel guilty about what he said. He shouldn't have to get on social media and apologize.
He should have just said, whoever the asshole was to ask the question or try to stir the controversy.
I wish I had asked him.
Yeah. He'd be the asshole. But whoever started that question, knowing damn good and well that Drew Brees feels that way, was all they were doing was striking up some more turmoil. Let's throw another match on the fire.
I don't know. I don't know the context of how it was asked, but you're probably right.
What did it have to do with? Ask him about what he feels about.
I mean, I get it's relevant because the reason for that movement is police brutality. That's obviously going on right now. There's cops out in the protests taking a knee with protesters in solidarity, which is kind of a cool thing. But so it's relevant. I don't see they shouldn't have asked them the question. It's
whoever fucking said it. I'm going to look it up later on tonight and see who said it. They're the type that will go after, pick somebody like Drew Brees, who they'll know will speak highly of the flag and that.
Yeah.
But they won't go up to Kaepernick. They won't go up to Obama and say, why are you guys inciting riots? Kaepernick basically said, burn the shit down, go after everything. You have Obama stating that, don't forget about, the people of power being heard.
Mm-hmm.
You need to be heard. Basically saying, whether he's going after the political part of it, whether it's Trump, whether it's whoever, but just back up and quit pushing people to do more damage, because some people take that literal. They think when somebody like Kaepernick says, don't let this go, keep going with what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Well, they think of it like, well, we've been burning shit, and they've been burning shit,
more,
and they've been burning shit, and they've.
I agree. Guys like Kaepernick, and I think it was Ice-T that was doing the same thing. Everybody. Like he was saying, we got to do more than just protest, which is saying basically we got to get violent here. I mean, he was inciting it, I think, and guys like him and Kaepernick are inciting violence.
Obama just said it today, something about how. Don't let it stop now.
He did, at the very end of his comments, say that the violence and the looting is not acceptable. But throughout his other comments, he was saying, make sure you are heard. Take it to the leadership, all that stuff. And it's like... Well,
but here's the problem. Okay. The headlines only read what he had said.
Right.
So me, if I'm a protester going out there, I hear that. Whoever else is listening and we're enraged, and obviously I'm enraged at the fact that these police officers would actually do something that blatant, and it took, I don't know who it took. I think it took the president and Department of Justice to say this should be expedited, And that's the problem we have now in society is our freaking law of order is fucked up. I mean, if you kill somebody in Illinois, you get 20 years. If you kill somebody in Virginia, where is the law that should be like?
That being said, I am in favor of states' rights. I like that a state can choose their own.
Yeah, but here's what you find though.
I don't want to.
You find criminals who choose which state to fuck around in.
Well, okay, and you're right.
Bullshit.
There's certain states that have much more relaxed laws.
We are the United States of America.
Yeah.
So we could have if you get caught stealing, kind of back in the old days, you lose a hand. If you rape somebody, we castrate you or whatever.
Yeah.
And
there probably should be a little more
but it's
uniformity.
If you look at the Minnesota law on this guy from what is it, number 1 or number 2 versus, there's really not much difference. It's like 25 years or 40 years. I'm sorry. 40 years. That's not enough.
First degree versus second degree or whatever.
Right.
Yeah. Third degree.
And these guys that are at third degree because they were told by this guy, so to speak, I don't know for sure. But anyway, told to stay on him, even though they're like, hey, we should get off of him. They're at the same 40 years. I'm like, wait a minute. The guy who choked him out, cocky and everything else, you got to put more onto this guy. This guy needs life or more.
But I hear what you're saying. Sometimes, though, it'll be like, if you're involved at all, if you're even just there when somebody gets killed, you are charged with manslaughter or whatever. So it's like, okay. I mean, we're getting into the nitty gritty of case law and stuff, but I'm okay with there being differences in different states as far as what the laws are.
Universal in the United
States. But now, when you start saying that, you start getting into the federal government telling states what to do, and I don't necessarily like. I like to have as little of that as possible.
I look at it. Police and military and things like that could be all done as a, you're not going to go over to my state where I have it a little bit looser because we don't have much crime, and come over here and kill 15 people, knowing that you're only going to get 5 years apiece. Well, where if you stay in your own damn state where they have a problem with murder. And they have it where you get life in prison when you kill one person. That's not fair. I mean,
But when you start regulating what the punishments are, then you start regulating what the laws are. And now you might live in a whatever state. Missouri is a fairly conservative state compared to Chicago and Illinois. And so you're telling me the federal government should get to come along once they get a Democrat in office and tell Missouri how they should run their state as far as laws go?
I don't know what the federal government... I think you could have sat down years ago and said, here's what happens.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying about punishment. There needs to be maybe more uniformity on murder.
You can't ever predict, I can't even think of a case, but...
Yeah.
Anyway.
Well, you talked about kind of setting up this asshole guy who asked the question of Drew Brees. Did you see the other day where DeMarcus Cousins, former Sacramento Kings basketball player, asked on Twitter this current Sacramento Kings, I want to say he's an on-air announcer, commentator guy. Basically, he just said, what do you think of this BLM stuff? Black Lives Matter. Mm-hmm. And the guy replied back, hey, haven't heard from you in a while, whatever. And he used the term, I think all lives matter. And that just blew up and became this huge story of, figures, I knew you were racist, that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so, one, that gets into a setup. That was clearly a setup. DeMarcus Cousins knew what he was asking, of who he was asking it, and he knew what the response was going to be, and he knew it would blow up. That was a setup. Now, maybe that guy is a racist, and he knew what he was saying when he used that term, all lives matter. But that brings me to my real point and question here is that term, all lives matter, has kind of been taken by whomever as a racist term. And I didn't know that until I read that story. I was not aware that the term all lives matter is a racist term.
I didn't either. And personally, I think when somebody labels Black Lives Matters, it's kind of racist in my opinion, just because of the fact that we should have, when the BLM started, we should have just had it where all lives matter, to be where there is no black, there is no white, there is no brown, there is no red. You're not going to, label us as black versus white. We should have had it.
I mean, that's the ideal we should be striving for, right? Is that everybody's equal.
Everybody's equal. It should be all lives matter, in my opinion.
But the people who are protesting police brutality are saying
they're not.
It isn't equal,
right?
And they want you to feel like they're feeling like Black lives don't matter to certain people,
and that's what I'm saying. I mean, I think whoever just came up with that slogan should have made it, instead of saying going after just black, they should have just said all lives matter, because in a way,
ideally,
we're all equal. I mean, I don't see them any different than us, and I don't see Asians, and I mean, I look at it like everybody's equal.
Okay. That being said, do you think at this point it should be acceptable to say all lives matter? Or do you think it's clearly been taken over by white supremacists and it's this wink wink code for white power?
I don't think it's white power. I think what happens is once the trademark was put on Black Lives Matter, that anything other than that now is, you're basically saying you don't like blacks, because you're basically saying our slogan is not good enough, which that's why I say somebody should have came out with, when they started the Black Lives Matter movement, they should have said all lives matter, to make, because again, I don't see myself superior over a black or an Asian or anything else. I think everybody's equal, and being turned into where only Black lives matters in their opinion, then it's almost like they're setting themselves up to say, like when somebody does come back and combat, I mean, I don't know, you could do red lives matters, you can do white lives matters. I don't think any of that needs, all lives matter should be the slogan.
Yeah.
And whoever patented the Black lives.
I know that I did not know anything about that term, all lives matter, as far as any controversy behind it. I think you said you didn't know about it until just recently.
Yeah.
So I'm sure there's a lot of people who don't know that that's a controversial term.
I've seen flags in people's yards that say all lives matter, and I just thought of it like,
I think it's a pretty great, cool thing. Noble statement.
Yeah, we're all equal, so screw
But apparently,
this.
if you put that flag in your yard, you might get vandalism or something, because you're an asshole.
I won't be putting it up because I'm not that way. But
that's kind of my point. Is now I don't know what this guy who they asked. It sounds like there might be some history there. This guy maybe supported the Clippers owner years ago when he made some racist comments, and so I don't know. But so maybe there's more to it. But I can absolutely see someone not knowing and saying, "Well, I think all lives matter," in a totally pure of heart manner, and people just blasting that person. And I don't think that's right.
But here's my theory behind that too. It's another Drew Bledsoe or Drew Brees moment, which is right now, with the way things are going, when somebody asks you a question, you might as well just keep your mouth shut, because this is a sensitive matter. This is a blatant killing in broad daylight of a black man who did not deserve to be murdered by a police force, or however you want to look at it.
I have seen...
Be careful with what you say.
A few years ago, when this whole Black Lives Matter movement got more popular, there was a lot of stuff, especially on like college campuses, where they weren't wanting to have equal recognition in these BLM, I'll say protests, but really just sort of like on-campus activities and events and stuff. They were wanting special treatment, and they got it. They got special classes, courses given for African-American studies and this is that. They got special locations where they could meet and not be in fear of persecution. They got all kinds of concessions for the BLM movement on college campuses.
But
and that was considered... Why? Is there a reason why?
Like,
yeah.
Did they come up with, like, the reason why we're doing this is...
Well, it was basically to concede to their demands. I mean, this is back when there were people demanding of universities that the chancellors be fired and the this and the that. And we want... They had lists that were given, and we're going to sit and have a starve out if we don't get what we want. and you're going to have dead students on the quad if you don't give us what we want. I mean, that's what the kind of shit that was going on. And so, yeah, these schools like caved and said, okay, we're going to give you. But my point is, there's this perception now by other people who think that Black Lives Matter as a movement, not an organization, which it is, and there's a difference. But that they weren't looking for equality. They were looking for special treatment. We want above and beyond what anybody else is getting. We want extra stuff to make up for this perceived poor treatment that they had been getting for however long. So that being said, that's where someone else on the outside of that might go, well, I hear what you're saying, that Black Lives Matter and Black lives do matter, but all lives matter. Don't make it special about black people or black lives. Make it special about all life. Everyone is important.
In my opinion.
And that's where the all lives matter, in my mind, came up. It was like, yeah, I do think black lives matter, and white lives matter, and yellow lives, and red lives, and brown lives. Every life matters. So that's where I'm going to get behind. Well, now you're a racist if you say that. So I don't know. Bill's fucking with my shit over here.
See, what I liked about Tyson going to colleges, and this is, I don't think our kids have seen racism. I think it's gotten better despite what we're seeing in the media right now.
Okay.
Because what I've noticed from going to these schools and checking out colleges of how well they interact with everybody. They don't just like, I know what you're saying as far as, black people want special treatment, but going to these colleges, it was just like everybody was, I think college life maybe just totally oblivious to this, which it should be.
It should be, and that's sort of what universities and campuses are supposed to be, is a place where anyone can go and fit in. Right. All kinds of opinions, all kinds of theories and backgrounds and whatever are okay and acceptable. That's what college is for, is anyone to go and expand their mind, right?
Right.
And it's not, I believe that's not like that.
And I found it like...
At least not enough.
Yeah, because we went to, 7 colleges or something like that, and every one of them was like, he had fun at every one. It was hard for him to choose because it wasn't even about race. It wasn't about, he just walked in with arms wide open, and everybody was arms wide open. It wasn't just a white thing. It wasn't a black thing. It wasn't like the blacks were over here and the whites were over here. It was like everybody's grouping up together, meeting them, explaining things, and he's just like, and he's totally not even close to being racist, which I would never let my kids be racist either way.
Right.
But it's like a draw to have everybody equal, and that's where I think the media plays out and gives people of color or of different race the option to where you're being picked on. You're being, in this case here, obviously the white cops were picking on a black gentleman who may or may not have broke the law. We don't know the full disclosure of it. However, when it's filmed and it's put right there and they're telling you to get off, you see his body go lifeless. Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, now I see the anger, and I think I'd have more anger towards it. It was angry to see it and it was disturbing, but obviously if it was my family or a friend of mine, I'd be like irate.
Well, we're an hour and 15 minutes in. Let's wrap this up. We're not necessarily trying to change anyone's mind or, I don't know. I wanted to discuss these things. I know you were kind of nervous about what path we might go down, but.
Well, it wasn't necessarily nervous. It was the idea that I don't want words. And this is how everything's gone recently, is words have been misinterpreted. And then when you say something like them, you, us,
right,
and you're kind of like, I'm not meaning color, race. I just mean people in general.
Yeah.
And it gets twisted, whether it's...
Yeah, there's a lot of instant reaction to things that, next thing you know, you got fired because of a comment you made that was completely innocent. Or, if not innocent, then whatever. But yeah, stuff is getting misconstrued now. So you do need to be careful with what you say and how you say it. But I also think it's important to have these conversations. I think the more people cower to the vocal minority who are, on both sides trying to oppress whatever and force their agenda, when you just say, well, I don't want to get in trouble for what I say. I don't want to be misconstrued, so I won't say anything. That's basically censorship. I mean, you're censoring yourself at that point. So I think it's important to say these things.
I think we should,
especially if you really are pure of heart. Like if you aren't an asshole racist, then you should be given your viewpoint and allowed to say what you think.
Well, my personal opinion is I don't care. I'd rather live in a life, and we should all live in a life of, as far as people, we should be color blind. I mean, I know what I like as far as a person goes. I mean, I'm one of those guys who wants somebody who's fun to hang around with, who laughs at things, who pokes fun at things, who enjoys a beer, who enjoys whatever. I don't care what color they are. And I've never had like, oh, we're going to have a get together. Who's coming? Oh, this person? Oh, I can't stand them because they're Asian.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, I don't even get that idea because people are funny. People are quick-witted. I mean, that's the type of person I like, is people that and hang out with people that way. I don't understand this whole hatred for somebody who based on their color. And
well, unfortunately, I understand that it exists and it sucks and it still goes on. And there's people who try to be blind to it and like, oh, I don't ever see it. Well, I mean, clearly there's racism still going on. So
I don't see it are the ones that probably are in their back patio right now,
maybe
sitting there saying, oh man, I went to work today and I had this guy that was working for me. This Asian guy was doing this and this and this, and constantly talking about the Asian guy, talking about the black guy, talking about whoever.
Yeah,
acts like because his neighbor's white, so he thinks.
But
he's
I don't
cool
see
with
racism.
It. Yeah, I don't see it. But
so
when he's at home, he doesn't say that. He's like uses all the racial things he can say.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I think there are people who are too quick to perceive racism where it doesn't exist. They're trying to use that quote unquote race card, right? To stir things up or to, I don't know, to get something out of it.
It's the media.
And it is the media a lot.
Social media.
But there's people who go along, who believe it. I mean, the media is showing you what they want you to hear, but they're also showing you what they know people want to see. It's all about money.
They want to make
clicks and
it's all about ratings. It's all about how many times. I mean, if you look at, it's weird to look at, but if you look at CNN, and I look at them both, and Fox, those are the two apps I have. It's night and day what they're talking about.
Right.
One's talking about a guy like today. One's talking about some guy who's being released from Iran because he was captured or whatever. I don't even know exactly what it was. The other ones are talking about something racist, and I'm not gonna say which one's which.
Right.
But it's like crazy. Like we could be in the middle of like Corona is not even in the top 10 anymore, even though it's we're still like not allowed to go places and we're not allowed to do this and that. However, it's like, why can't you report on the same thing that's important and what's going on? I mean, it's kind of like when a space shuttle or Elon Musk put that ship up or whatever it was. Some were reporting on it. The other ones were just like, we're talking about this now. It's like they deliberately go.
Well, the news
extreme.
is a business for sure, and they're going to make money by reporting on certain things in certain ways for the people they feel like are their demographic. Their viewership.
They're stirring the pot. There's some that's,
well,
both of them.
But I
between
guarantee
those two, Fox and CNN, they both stir the pot on whatever format they want to press.
But they're doing it from the perspective of CNN knows who their audience is. They know they're a left-wing news entity, and they know the type of people that follow that. And so they're not going to put some story out that's going to trash Biden or Hillary Clinton or whatever.
But they're not going to post.
I know, but that's a business now. So they're only going to put out the stories that their audience is going to click on.
You're TMZ.
Well, I agree. It's bullshit
You're
on both sides. Fox
news.
is the same way. They put shit out that supports Trump and trashes Biden and supports this and trashes
that. Call it like it is. I mean, if Trump says something stupid or whatever he does, both of them should report the same thing.
But my point is, yes, the media is stirring up shit, and yes, they're controlling the narrative, but they're putting it in a way that people want to see. There's people that are reading Fox News, and there's people that are reading CNN News who want to hear it told a certain way, and they want to hear certain stories from a certain perspective, and that's their audience. They know that. So yes, they're controlling it, but it's the people who control it by clicking on it. If nobody gave a shit about the perspective that Fox News was writing, they would change the way they write stories. If nobody was clicking on it, they would go.
Well, here's my theory. Let's get off of racism. Both news companies, all news companies, get off racism. I mean, obviously, we know these cops.
Don't tell BLM that.
Did what's wrong? I mean, it's obvious. Anybody who's seen it, unless you're just dumb and retarded, and I know I can't say retarded, but you have to be almost.
Damn it, Bill. We were so good up until
so good. Now. I'll say that and get in trouble for that. But however, it's obvious. I don't know anybody that I'm friends with that doesn't see it what it is. And so my friends matter more than anybody else.
Okay.
So if they all see it the same way, and no one's ever questioned me like, are you sure that's happened? Bullshit. However, the news controls what people's views are. And I'm trying to think of the right way to say this.
Well, that's kind of what I got fired up about, was that the one news story, basically the headline was, surveillance video shows Floyd wasn't resisting, countering the police narrative.
Right.
Well, that particular video from that angle for that amount of time didn't show him resisting, but it also didn't show the whole thing. So the news should say that. They should say, limited video of arrest or whatever doesn't show resistance, right? Don't say he didn't resist. You don't know that he didn't resist. And I'm not saying he did or he didn't. I'm just saying that one video and the headline that went along with it and the narrative behind it was bullshit. It didn't show the whole thing.
Right. And that, obviously, when I told you, I've seen a different different view of it.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is politics plays a role in everything now. So whether you're Democratic or you're Republican, obviously you know which news to watch if you're favoring one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
So they use it as a ploy to try to get votes.
Oh,
and
yeah. Obviously.
Right now we're into an election year, and
a few months away.
Yeah, and it's so fucking annoying that we're using coronavirus. We're using this racial tension we have right now, as a ploy to say vote for Biden because he's for whatever. Vote for Trump, re-elect Trump, I should say, for this bullshit. It's like they're all out there to make themselves look good. I don't even fucking know who controls it. I think the media controls more than the actual president controls.
Well, I'm sure some, but like I said, it's a business and it's money. The media is putting out what they think people are going to click on. That's it. If they weren't making money off their strategy, they would change their strategy.
Well, they would
report differently.
Yeah, here's my theory. Black Lives Matters. All lives matters.
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to stop giving in to any kind of media, social or TV or whatever it is, and say, let's just do what's right for our friends, our fellow Americans. None of us are from America. We're all somehow got over here on some kind of boat, and we need to react that way and act that way and treat everybody with respect. And if you think you're above that, and I'm picking on this cop because he was thinking he's above everything, it's wrong. I mean, I don't want my kids to be even close to looking at a color of a skin to decide whether or not they're going to go somewhere or do something with someone. And I think that's how all people should be doing things.
Well, I agree with you. I will also, excuse me,
cough.
I will add to that. I think people need to understand that there are some, I will say, few cops who are corrupt and bad and brutal to certain races, and that is totally wrong, and they need to be weeded out. And maybe from a systemic union level, they need to do more to get rid of guys like that.
Let me pause you for a second. From this cop's record, from what I understand, he's had 18 or something like that.
I saw that.
Why don't you have a 1-2 strike and you're out type of thing? I don't understand why you could just keep having...
What I don't know the context of I'm assuming that damn near any cop is going to have complaints about
complaints
him.
one thing.
I don't know. I don't
know exactly.
I hear what you're saying, and I don't want to assume that 18 complaints means he was this abusive, racist cop, because maybe most cops have a lot of...
Why is his wife divorcing him?
Well, I think she's... probably getting the fuck out while getting's good.
Like, yeah, I'm sure she was.
I didn't like that either. Like, really, on the day this shit comes out, you're like, oh, guess what, nation? I'm divorcing him. Don't blow me up on Twitter. Like, fuck you.
Maybe he was a freaking cock at home too, and she couldn't get away from it there.
He probably was, but like, really, this is the time you choose to publicly let everyone know you're divorcing him? She was probably getting hate mail. She was probably getting hate tweets, and she's like, "Oh, guess what? I'm leaving him." Like,
I would fucking leave him too. Well, dickhead.
If he's such an asshole, she should have left him a long time ago. Like,
well, maybe he had control over her.
I think
once he gets arrested, she's like, shit, he can't come back and beat me up or whatever the hell.
I'm just saying, the fact that she made it a public thing was so stupid. Like, she can divorce him and leave him, and we never know about it.
Public.
Well, you're right. Anyway, my point is that we need to realize that there are abusive, asshole, racist cops, and that shit needs to end. That needs to go away. Somehow, we need to do a better job of doing that. Probably internally within police forces, they need to do a better job of getting rid of their own guys who are assholes,
chiefs, and everything else. Don't be covered because they've been on the force for 10 years. Like, oh, he's a tenure. Who gives a fuck? If he's a bad cop? He's a bad cop.
We also need to realize that there are a lot of asshole criminals out there, a lot of thugs who are attacking cops for no reason. Sometimes we've seen in St. Louis where they've set up ambushes. They've created situations to have a cop called, and they fucking attack him when he gets there.
But they're not just black; they're white. They're every other color.
I'm just saying, cops are on edge too. Cops have reason to be scared. They have reason to think that these criminals might attack them. Right?
They put their lives in harm's way. I mean, they're out to protect, and obviously, whenever you need a cop, it's usually when there's some kind of distress or there's an act of violence going on, and this person or persons has to go out there not knowing what the hell they're going up against.
Right. I think that's definitely something that a lot of people don't take into perspective, is take into account that call that came in to get the cop there usually isn't nonchalant, like, yeah, there's a guy hanging out on the curb, you might want to take a look. It's usually there's a perp acting erratically,
domestic,
right? Something. Yeah. And the cop is usually there, not knowing what he's walking into, wondering if the guy's armed, wondering if he's on some kind of drug that's going to take his rationality out the window and make him act erratically.
Waiting for him to walk up and then
they don't. Usually the call is a little more of a warning than he wasn't doing anything. Why did he act tough? It's like, well, the cop didn't know that when he showed up, called to the scene of a 911 call. Right. So I'm just saying, we need to, as much as we need to understand that there are bad cops and bad people who are asshole racists, we also need to understand that these cops are dealing with asshole people too every day. And when shit goes south, we need to have a little bit of empathy that, maybe the criminal who had a 911 call wasn't completely innocent, and I'm not saying any of these guys are deserving to be killed necessarily, but I'm just saying we need to understand both sides of it. That black people feel persecuted by cops, but cops feel persecuted by criminals.
But again, I'm just going back to Floyd real quick. We don't know if that $20 bill he was passing was on purpose, or if the owner of this store just didn't say it because it was a black man who came in. That's where it's not just the police being racist.
Like, they could have told him, like, hey, this is fake, and he would have been like, really? And walked out. And
right. He might have got that bill from going to work that day, and he was doing lawn work, and somebody gave him a $20 bill. He goes in to buy whatever he's buying, and he's just paying. I mean, I just got done paying some money.
Know. You're right. We don't know.
So he wasn't like necessarily made that money, but this, of course, and I'm not blaming the store owner yet, because I don't know anymore. Mm-hmm. But he could have just said, "Oh, this is a black man who passed a fake $20 bill. Let's arrest this guy." Now, it could have been someone else. I don't know what the ethnic of the store owner is. Right. However, I think I heard him say now he wished he would never have called the cops on it.
He said he wouldn't do it again. And
right. So it's like,
I think that's an unfortunate side effect of this, is that, sure, he would never want this to happen again where this guy gets killed by cops. And I'm glad that he doesn't want that to happen again. I'm glad he didn't come out and say, "Yeah, hell yeah, I'd do it again,"
Right.
But
now he's afraid
for him to say, "Well, I'm not calling the police the next time a crime happens." Well, fuck. Like, great. That's a good message to send out to all the criminals out there. Now they know they can go rob this guy and he ain't going to do anything about it. You know, it's like, ugh. It sucks both ways. It sucks what happened, but it also sucks that is the outcome for that guy, is that he's going to allow crime to happen. But anyway, we all need to be more empathetic. We all need to be more understanding.
Everyone, or not even have to love. Just
wait. Are you saying all lives matter, Bill?
I'm saying
Jesus Christ.
Everybody matters. I'm not saying.
I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I wish
you're saying what you should be able to say without.
I wish I was racist enough to say what. I'm serious. I wish I was racist to say, "Hey, I now can see the light," because I don't see color. I mean, I don't see it that way. I see it like I feel their pain because I can see how they're getting, picked on or prosecuted in certain ways but I can't see how I hate any of it, like I don't understand the hate. And I think it's a small group of people that do the hate, but those people will be vocal enough to do it. And I guarantee, and again, I'm against media so much to where I think they create the hate. I don't necessarily think they hate, but I think they know how to push buttons.
Yeah.
And that's what they do because that gets them ratings, that gets clicks, them money. And even that CNN got, bombarded with the protesting. Somebody went out there and that's still good press for them.
Oh yeah.
So that makes me mad because it's like, you guys stir that pot.
Yeah.
And then, of course, celebrities who I think should shut the fuck up because you guys have everything gifted to you. I mean, granted, if you're talented, whether you're an actor, you're still in a better position than 90% of the rest of us out here. And you're going to come out here and tell us how you feel the pain. You don't feel shit. You're just doing it for your own,
I know.
Next movie.
I understand what you're saying, but I also understand that a lot of those people came from poor, tough situations.
The ones that did,
they should have an opinion on it.
The ones that didn't,
I don't want to hear from
Lori Loughlin's daughter who right. She's like, "Oh yeah, shut the fuck up." I don't want to hear from people that had a silver spoon in their mouth.
Yeah.
I mean, if freaking
everyone's entitled to an opinion, silver spoon or not. You can educate yourself on the shit that's going on, and
likes on Facebook and likes on
I think, like I said,
Instagram.
Your intentions need to be pure. If you are just trying to get likes on social media and you're just joining whatever movement because that's what's going on at the time, that's bullshit. But I think you should have an opinion. I think we should have the discussion, and we need to get people on the same page. But anyway, write in or, any other way you can get us on social media at Load This Podcast and tell us how racist we are. I know my wife was pretty nervous about how this would play out. Not that she thinks I'm racist, but just that she thinks
it's a touchy subject.
This could be taken the wrong way.
There's a reason why I may not have wanted to do this, but at the same time, I don't get racism at all. I guess I didn't grow up in the 60s, whatever, to have it. It's not in me. I don't care who you are. It's, if I like you, I like you. If I don't, I don't, no matter what it is.
I mean, that's what we all should be striving towards, is like to where you don't, I mean, the cliche, you don't see color, right?
Well, not in people.
We
I mean,
want
shit,
our
I want to
kids
see
to
like color and like the grass being green, but
Yeah.
I don't.
We don't. We want our kids to not even perceive what that is, like
No, fuck that.
to not even understand
Because
that
it
you
doesn't
would
make sense. Because
judge
it's the
somebody
same
before
fucking.
you knew them, right?
I mean, yeah, we all have blood, we all have skin, we all have the same thing. What
Yeah.
is the fuck does it matter if?
But I
somebody's
feel like we're
darker
going backwards. I felt like 10 or 15 years ago, I felt like we were making real progress, and maybe I was just naive and not seeing it, but I felt like we were getting better as a society about racial tensions. And I feel like all through the Obama administration and absolutely through the Trump administration, things have gotten worse and worse and worse with racial relations. And we have completely backslidden as a society along those lines. And I don't understand it really, and it sucks. Obviously, it's a shame, but like, I don't even see what's going to turn it around.
It's fuel, because I'll tell you what, let's say we all got along like you thought for years and years and years. It's always one of those things where you can always go back and push someone's buttons. You know, it's like one of those things where it's always going to be on the tilting point of, yeah, you're right, I don't like white guys. Or, yeah, you're right, I don't like black guys. I don't like Asians. I don't like Mexicans, or whatever it is. So it's an easy way to go back to it. So if everything's going good and everything's going great, it's always one of those things where somebody has that joke, or somebody has that experience that their great-great-grandpa had, or, you know, great-great-grandma had, you know, was a slave, or, you know, even though we've personally never had to deal with that kind of stuff except until, you know, recently, everybody takes it personal. And I think, again, it's all about the social aspect of what can we do to relate, what can we do to stir a pot, and race seems like the easiest way to make people go one way or another.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like when we were kids, I mean, you and I, we grew up in the 80s, we became adults in the 90s. It was obviously a different time in a lot of ways, not just race. All kinds of things were so different back then. But, I mean, like, interracial marriage was uncommon in the 80s and early 90s.
Oh, yeah.
And, you know, having interracial sex scenes in a movie were like, what? Oh, my God, we can't show that. Just like race was a touchy subject back then. But I feel like more and more throughout society, whether it was entertainment, I think entertainment was a big part of it. You started having more races being represented in different shows and movies. And like, there were people that we knew that were dating people of different color, and all the kinds of that stuff became more accepted, whether it was sexuality, homosexuality, whatever, just became much more common.
Well, that's what happened. The racists went away when homosexuality, transgender, all this came about. Then that became the like
hot button topic.
Yeah, let's focus on that for a while. And then when that was kind of like everybody's just accepting it, and it
seemed like just all across the board, whether it was stuff you saw on TV, people that you hung out with, clothes that were sold in stores, athletes on sports teams, businesses, you know, who they were hiring and all that stuff. I felt like it was just getting better and better and better about diversity, right? And nobody like even caring anymore about differences in skin color and whatever, and race. And I felt like we were just having these huge steps of progress along those lines. And then it just feels like now, even though we still have a lot of diversity in movies, and we still have a lot of what was built in that era, the 80s and 90s, but we've like completely gone backwards in the hate and the racism and the, you know, police brutality and attacks on police, and then whether you agree with it or you don't, and take a knee and BLM and all this shit that's like, whoa. Now it's so divisive now. And social media is part of it.
And again, everybody's probably sick and tired of me saying social media. People stand behind a computer all the time and they will poke a jab, say a racial slur, say whatever they want to behind a computer. whether it's
With an
Twitter, whether
anonymous name or
Instagram,
whatever,
anonymous, all this bullshit, and stir pots up because they want to be funny or they want to create a rise. But if that person was in front of another person, they're not that tough. They're not that.
Yeah, you would not say that necessarily.
Chances are they probably don't even believe that way. This is something they've heard, but they think it's funny to start some kind of bull. Like, I've seen so many different things. Like, I don't care what it is. If it's an ad on Facebook, if it's some kind of thing, somebody wants to write something either racist or they want to write something that's sexual to be that funny person. But at the same time, they also want to get a rise out of somebody. And like, I was reading stuff about George, and it's like, it's funny how somebody will say something so racist about what happened to this guy, but they're only doing it. They didn't watch the video, and they're doing it to get a rise, and they don't care if they get motherfucked. They don't care if they get death threatened because they're on a social media platform. And who knows if that's the real person? Somebody can steal your picture, making, and all that. That's exactly what they're doing. It's all about stirring the pot and becoming like, see how many hits I can get on this, and how many likes I can get on this, and how much attention I can get from this. And it's so bullshit.
Yeah, I think you're right. Social media has definitely brought out more negativity than positivity. I mean, I think it can be good for things, but it allows people to kind of anonymously just, lather up their hate or whatever.
I don't even think they hate. I think they just like to stir a pot.
Well, some people, and you and I talked a little bit when we weren't recording, but I was saying how I think when people get together in small groups, sort of anonymously, or let's say, you're around friends around a campfire or something and nobody's listening, right? That kind of thing. You might say and do things and like something that you would never really think on your own or if you were in a different situation, but you kind of go along with what other people are saying or doing just because you want to be part of that group or whatever. Well, that's social media. You want to be part of the group. You want to get more likes. You want to get more of this. You want to hashtag that, blah, 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 blah. And you might not even agree with a lot of what you're saying, but you're going to jump on that bandwagon if a bunch of people are getting involved, and you become accepted in this community, even though you're anonymous or whatever. So I think it's really bad for that. But anyway, it's just unfortunate. It sucks that I perceive that race issues are a lot worse now than they were, 10 years ago or whatever. But
well, I think they've always been bad. It's just now that we have a way to display it and a way to either protest it, whether it's, peaceful or if it's rioting and all that. And I think the rioters are just looking to get more coverage over the event to either for political gain or whatever their gain is out of that. And then you got to deal with the fact that everybody wants I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people want a stand of some sort, whether or not they believe in it or not. If there's something going on, whether it's it's kind of like fashion, for instance. Yeah. You look at clothes you wore 10 years ago and you're like, why would I wear that? But you wore it because of one, peer pressure, and two, that was the style back then. And it's kind of sad to say that, but people will get on a bandwagon about something anymore because they want to be seen in that thing. They want to act like they feel it. I mean, a lot of people that were out there protesting, I guarantee, never have felt how some of these people feel and why they're protesting. Right. But they want to be out there like, we know where you're coming from. You don't have no idea where they're coming from. I'm not going to pretend to be that person to know where they're coming from because I don't know what it feels like to be that way. But I feel for them, but I can't sit out there and literally say, I'm going to walk with you and march with you and whatever, because that's hypocritical too, because I don't know what it's like, but I'm sitting there, I'd give you all the publicity in the world and I'd be right there liking your posts and, doing this right now. We're speaking about it to try to kind of like help people understand it a little bit. Yeah. But I can't sit there and say, oh, I know where you're coming from, because it's not the same. Even though I said, me being a troublemaker growing up, I felt kind of what it's like, but I still don't know what it's like to be day in and day out, being the minority and having somebody always gunning for me. And no pun intended.
Well, yeah. If you're going to jump on a bandwagon, we hope you jump on the Get a Load of This bandwagon. And we thank you for listening and subscribing and downloading. Tell your friends, tell your families, tell your local police officers. to tune in. Well, we thank Bill for sitting in with us. Ryan couldn't be here. Hopefully he's here next time we decide to get together. Thanks for coming by and talking controversy with me.
Yeah, it sucked. I mean, I really didn't want to talk about it because it's one of those things where one wrong way of saying something. That's why I'm trying to be careful of what I say, because I don't want to feel like I'm trying to hurt anyone's feelings at all. So I'm just trying to be real with what's going on.
You be you, Bill.
Yeah.
Don't worry about it. If you get fired, you can work from home.
If I'm fired, I'm not working from anywhere.
Yeah, you can find something. All right. Well, again, thanks for listening. And until next time, I'm Jarod.
I'm Bill.
Get a load of this.
See ya.